Hey guys, ZeroMagnumX here. Happy holidays and early Merry Christmas. I hope everyone's week is going pretty good. I'm in the last week stretch of finals actually for the semester. So, share your thoughts on that if any of you are college students. I'd love to hear it. We can share stories, whatever else. However, to get to more of the point of this is a deck profile along with some strategy suggestions. Some people are confused about how formula frogs work. I'm here to explain that. First I'll go over the basic idea of the deck and name the cards in it, and then I will go on from there and explain a few strategies. Okay, first up, the primary deck. First we have 3 Gen X Undines. I think that's how you say it. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. He's one of the main searchers of the deck, and he helps get that Fishboard Blaster to your graveyard, or if you ever need it, Treeborn Frog. Think of him as more so a level 3 Armageddon Knight that gets you Gen X controller to hand instead. So it replaces what it sends. It's kind of a nice card. Okay, next are 3 Swap Frogs. These are kind of a dark grepher for this deck. You discard a water monster and send a water monster to special summon it. And then whenever it's summoned, you can just send a water monster. They're pretty nice, actually. So, and then if you want to, you can return him to your hand. So, he doesn't have to sit on the field and be a target. Next up, 3 Dupe Frog. First, I want to make a suggestion for 3 of these. Make one of them a Tragodia. I just don't own Tragodia yet, but I will be making that adjustment whenever I can. He's nice because he can create a frog lock and they can't attack you, so it's pretty cool. Okay, next to Ronin Toadin, or Reverend Toad, for those who like OCG cards. I thought he was much cooler as a little Reverend, but that's my personal opinion. Probably want to side him out with something better, probably a Gores and a 3rd Fader against Gravekeepers. But in regular matches, I prefer him over Gores and a 3rd Fader. I never have needed more than 2 Fader to win with this deck. If you do, there's something probably wrong. Okay, 2 Treeborn Frog. I don't like 3. I think it becomes too cluttered. 2 seems to be a perfect balance for the deck. Alright, 2 Fishboard Blasters. Main tuner of the deck. Sorry about the glare, my cases are kind of weirdly bent, but they're nice, so. Okay. 2 Gen X controller. I don't like 3. 2 seems to be the perfect number, because it's just a catalyst to get your strategy going, really, which I'll explain whenever I explain how the deck works. 2 Battle Fader. Like I said, I wouldn't run 3, I only run 2. The next one, that's a personal tech of mine, is Flip Flop Frog, because even if he's like face down and they attack with that Synchro Monster, even if it's Shooting Star Dragon or whatever, you return Shooting Star back to the extra deck. So even if he dies, you still have a nice advantage. And secondly, even if he doesn't die and you somehow get the 2 Dupe Frogs out and get that lock going, you can just flip him and return 3 monsters a turn. It's amazing. So it depends on what kind of game you're playing. 2 Kai's to Shadow Monarch. I own 3, but I only run 2 in here for room purposes because of the next card. I like 2 Raza. I've had games whenever I threw down 1 Raza, the Storm Monarch, tributed it, and then put down another Raza. So it's quite fun, especially if you're in a mirror match. Raza can be pretty mean because you keep returning their same monster that they're trying to set and get to the graveyard. And if you keep returning that to the top of the deck, you create a dead draw, and they're taking 4,800. So it's kind of a mean strategy. This is a personal tech of mine. I'm not entirely sure if I'm keeping it or not, mostly because of Chimera Tech Fortress floating around, but I like Jinzo. It shuts down traps, and since this deck only runs 3 trap cards, I get a good advantage with Jinzo. Okay, next up, 2 Light and Darkness Dragons. Very beautiful card. They just sit there and they work for you and negate everything, so your opponent burns through their resources so you gain the lead. And finally, my favorite card in the deck, probably, the Egyptian God card, Obelisk the Tormentor. Amazing, amazing card, can come out turn 2. If you have 2 Fishborg Blasters in the graveyard and Treeborn Frog second turn, or first turn even if you get him in there, he comes out second turn. And he's just a bomb to drop on your opponent. A lot of people can't deal with a 4K at a 4K beat stick, especially after Mirror Force and Dark Hole and other such cards already used up. Okay, spells are next. 3 enemy controller. These are staple for Frog Monarchs. Don't run 2, run 3. Okay, 2 Pot of Avarice. One's proxied. Sorry about that. I need to find another Pot of Avarice somewhere. Okay, 2 My Body is a Shield. I swear by this card. It is an amazing, amazing tech. It protects so much, especially if you have Obelisk out and you're anticipating their Mirror Force or their, Torrential Tribute if you summon something else with Obelisk, or even their Dark Hole or Smashing Ground. It's a wonderful card to take care of those problems. Okay, Dark Hole, it's a staple. 1-for-1's a staple for this deck. Monster Reborn's a staple. This is a personal tech of mine. MCool40 kind of got me on the bandwagon because he mentioned that in regionals and such there's setting a lot, and this deck thins out a lot, so I should be able to draw Nobleman pretty easily. So, at 1. I don't know if I want to replace the next card, which is Foolish Burial, with another Nobleman, but they're an amazing, amazing card. They get rid of Rykos, they get rid of Spies, a lot of major threats. Next up, 2 Space Typhoon and a Cold Wave. For those of you who don't like Nobleman across out, I highly recommend Giant Trunade or a 3rd Pot of Avarice in place of the Nobleman across out. And then finally, the 3 trap cards. Most decks are using that Water Art card. I personally like 3 of these because if they're pushing for those first turn big dragons to OTK you, like Shooting Star Dragon and so on, this is an instant return. It's an amazing card, and it yields a lot of advantage. Whenever they go to Synchro Summon, if you return their Synchro Monster, they just wasted so many cards trying to get it out. And it sets you up so much in a better position. So, I love this card. Alright, now to explain a little bit about the deck itself. For those who are confused about how it works, just give me a second here to fix the deck up. Okay. The primary cards for this deck to run are Fishborg Blaster, Treeborn Frog, Swap Frog, and Genex Undine. These are your main engines to the deck, and I'll explain what each does. Okay, Genex Undine allows you to send a water monster from your deck to the graveyard, to add a Genex controller monster from your deck to your hand. Typically, you want to send this guy, Fishborg Blaster. Fishborg Blaster, whenever it is sent, can stick around in your graveyard forever. And then what you can do, anytime you have a water monster of level 3 or lower, you can discard a card and special summon it. So it's a level 1 tuner. What this means is, say we have Swap Frog Swap Frog in hand, and let's say, Dupe Frog or Ronin Toad, and just for all intents and purposes. Whichever one I hit first. Okay. So, with Swap Frog, okay, remember, these guys are existing in your deck. Both of them. So your first opening hand, if you're lucky enough to get this, might be discard a Ronin Toad, special summon Swap Frog. Swap Frog's ability activates, you send Treeborn Frog to the graveyard. Summon Genex Undine, send Fishborg Blast to the graveyard, and then get Genex Controller to hand. What I've effectively done is I've just set up my entire synchro strategy. Because now, from here on out, as long as I have no spells and traps in my zones, every single turn, regardless if these 2 are out, your field, every turn is going to probably look like this. Where you have both of these guys out. Fishborg Blaster, because you get a chance to discard. That's what Controller is for. You discard it for Blaster. And Treeborn. You synchro these guys up, okay, for Formula Synchron. Formula Synchron lets you draw. Likewise, another strategy that's big is during your standby phase. Alright? Treeborn Frog comes back. Let's say you have this, enemy controller. If you play enemy controller during your standby phase, you can tribute Treeborn Frog, take their face-up monster. And then Treeborn Frog still comes back in the standby phase. If you have one Treeborn Frog in your graveyard and 3 enemy controllers in your hand, all during the standby phase, you can take 3 face-up monsters your opponent owns. It's a really cool strategy, and it's really amazing too, because what you can do is effectively just, if they've got their boss monsters out, it can mean nothing if you've got that combo in your hand, and you can just take over whatever they're using. So basically, the idea is that the deck cycles a lot. You get Formula Synchrons out every turn, effectively, alright, if you want them. And then Pot of Avarice, after you use your 3 Formula Synchrons and get your draw power, return 3 Formula Synchrons, and even other synchros, so your deck is still pretty thin. You still have your strategy going and draw 2 cards. So the deck cycles through really, really quickly. Some other nice plays too. Let's say you have these guys out. You can drop things like Light and Darkness Dragon. Okay. Whenever you take over their monster, you can tribute their monster instead of yours for like a Monarch, you know? So that's pretty nice to do. If you really can get it out, let's say this is your graveyard, you can move from play that. Tribute all 3 for Obelisk, who's a bomb in the deck. I mean, this deck does so many different things, it's unreal. Which is why it might be a little bit hard to understand how it works at first. That's just a little bit on how this deck operates. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope that gave you some understanding to how Formula Frogs work and some strategy ideas if any of you are anticipating how to build it. And really, that's all for this little, I guess, improving the Monarchs episode. If you want to know what my extra deck is, I can show you real quick here too. It hasn't changed much. Red Nova, Red Demons, Shooting Star, Stardust, Mistworm. It actually can come out in this deck pretty easily. Dark End, because you're running Caius. Thought Roller, which is an overlooked card in the game, I personally think. Black Rose Dragon. This should be Go-Yo Guardian, but my Go-Yo Guardian is missing, which I'm not happy about. Bryonic, Catastor, which may or may not be in the final build. I might put Colossal Fighter in because Colossal Fighter seems to come out easier. 1 Armory Arm, and 3 of my Proxy Formula Synchrons because I still need them. Real quick, I think we still have enough time. I'm going to explain something real quick to you. It's let's say this is Colossal Fighter, okay? And you summon it, alright? And you get Armory Arm out. And this deck can do it pretty nicely. The idea here, alright, is that you equip Armory Arm to your opponent's monster. They need at least 1850 attacks. So you equip Armory Arm to your opponent's monster, and you constantly attack it with Colossal Fighter and revive Colossal Fighter. What happens then is as you take 50 life points of damage or whatever, your opponent is taking 2800 off of Colossal Fighter because of how Armory Arm is worded. It's a nice combo. It's something for pro duelists to make note of because it might become a problem in the game. I'm just letting you know. And really, I think Colossal Fighter can keep coming back because it's by its own effect. Like Stardust Dragon. I'm not sure when Necro Valley's on the field. I gotta double check that. But really, that's all. I hope you enjoyed the update. And ZeroMagnumX out. Good night, YouTube. Peace.